it's Danielle from Banning Lane, and I'm here with one of this week's Free Flow Wednesday videos. And I'm starting out by showing you the inspiration piece for this week. Now, when I first saw this, I actually had just gotten my Click Kit in the mail, and I thought the colors of these papers really matched the inspiration piece, so I definitely knew that I wanted to work with this kit. Now I'm going to be doing an 8.5 by 11 layout, and I already have my photo printed and matted on some white paper. Now, Sarah Swan will be doing a video with me today, and we decided to do a sort of a recipe challenge. And so the things that we decided to work with were at least two pieces of pattern paper. Now I know that the flower is definitely patterned, that ombre green is debatable, but for me it is. We also needed to work with labels. We decided to work with some wood veneer, and also some enamel dots or enamel shapes. So I pulled some of those from my stash. And then the last thing are buttons. And so I picked out a couple of those that match my layout, and I am ready to go. So I have a pretty good idea of where I'm going with this layout. Now I had two of these 4x4 cards that came in my Click Kit picked out to use on this layout. I originally wanted to use this one with this colored border down the side, but I thought this second one that says "You are amazing, remember that" kind of fit my photo a little better, so I decided to go with that. I have my papers kind of cut down how I want them. These are actually just two scraps of paper. Scraps are my favorite thing to work with on layouts. I just find them really easy to work with. But I'm going to layer those up and then take my photo and just place on top of those and get those stuck down in place so that I don't have to worry about them moving around. Then I'm going to take this journaling spot and get that down on my page, and now I can work on embellishing this layout. Now, labels were on the recipe, and so I knew I needed to pick a couple of those out. I pulled several from my stash, but I narrowed it down to these two pink ones pretty quickly. I do like to use pink on layouts that have photos of my daughter on them. I just like the color pink, and I think it makes the layouts look girly and fun, and my daughter really likes pink, so they just seemed like the natural choice to pick. And then the wood veneer, I had pulled a couple different ones out, but I settled on this set of 3 hearts, and then I had to use the buttons on my layout. So with the circle wood veneer and the circle buttons, I decided to pull out a few other circle embellishments and just kind of make that a theme. So there's that wonderful flare, and that came in my Click Kit. And then there's that little circle that says 2 on it, and that came in my Click Kit as well. And I just chose that because this photo is of the 2 of us. And I also pulled out another label, that yellow circle label. I thought that would fit with the colors of this layout. And then of course I have my enamel dots, and I kind of move all of these circles around quite a bit on my layout. I just can't decide where I want them. I actually cut a lot of that process out just because it was horrible. I just couldn't decide, and I moved them everywhere. But where they are now, I think is pretty much where they'll end up at the end of my layout, though I think I move them around even a little bit more later on. Now, the wood veneer has those 3 hearts that are, opened, and I thought it would be fun to fill them in with some sort of pattern. And so that green ombre paper that I used, I decided to bring that in again, and I don't know if you saw, but I just cut out 3 different sections, so it kind of goes from light green to dark green, and I like the way that looks. And now I think I'm going to try to commit to the placement of these circles and start getting some things glued down and in place so that I can finish this layout up. I did think that I moved those around a little bit more, and as you can see, I did. I don't know why I was having such a hard time deciding where to put those. I seem to always worry about my enamel shapes, not my enamel shapes, my flare sticking to my layout. So I usually end up using a really strong adhesive. So this time I used this red tape that's super, super sticky, and I get that stuck down into place. And then I fiddle with this label a little bit. It does end up getting stuck down there by those wood veneer hearts, but I am still obviously undecided about where I'm putting things. I do get these hearts glued into place because I for sure know those are going there. And then I just decide to go ahead and commit to the original placement of that yellow label. Now I'm going to be sewing these buttons down, but just so they don't move around and I know that I get them where I want them, I just use a little bit of my dot adhesive to keep them in place until I can get them stitched down. I for a moment decide that I just want to use one of those enamel dots, but at the end there I decide to just stick that other pink one on. And now I just need to poke the holes for the buttons. So I'm just putting that little foam pad underneath my layout and using my little piercer tool to poke those holes. And so that way it will be much easier to sew on my little buttons. Now, as I was sewing those buttons on, I decided I thought about my journaling a little more, and I realized that the story that I wanted to tell didn't really match the journaling card. And so I looked through my stamps and I pulled out a couple of my Ali Edwards story stamps, and I picked 2 sets that I thought fit my theme. And I ended up settling on the stamps that say, in the end, I'm going to choose the 2 that say magical moment. And in my journaling, I just talk about how on the day that I took this selfie of me and my daughter was a day that she just came over and wanted to sit by me. And she's been doing this more and more lately. And I think it's because she's in preschool now. And so there's at least 3 days a week that she's in school where those days were normally just spent with me and her at home. And so she loves school and she loves that time that she gets to go do that. But I do think that it makes her want to be close to me when she is home, which obviously I'll definitely take. But on this particular day, it just made me realize that this is kind of her way of telling me that I'm her mama. You know, she still needs no snuggles from me, and I am that spot that's safe and warm. And I remember that day feeling overwhelmed by that whole thought of being her mom. And I always say I'm the one that loves her most because I think a mommy's love is special. And so I wanted to kind of write about that in my journaling. And that moment to me was definitely magical. And so that's why I chose that phrase. Now for my journaling, I decided to just use a ruler to draw in some lines and then handwrite my journaling. And I have to say that I don't really like what I wrote. I don't like how I worded that journaling. I used some repetitive phrase and not in a good way. I didn't actually mean to do it. And in the moment I decided not to worry about it, but looking back on it now, it kind of bugs me. So I will probably go back in and redo that, which is not a big deal. But at this point I call it done. I just need to get my date put on there and then it is complete. So I would encourage you guys, if you haven't already, to head on over and watch Sarah's video and see her take on this challenge. And I would also encourage you to join in on the fun. So if you use this recipe on a layout, definitely post it to our Facebook group. I will put that information down below. And I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. All right, bye-bye.